I will not be on too long, unfortunately, as I always do, spent too much time preparing and not enough time actually doing the show, which happens quite often. But that means that the quality of the content is going to be very high. So, I appreciate every single one of you. Oh my God. Oh my God. So, where do I even start? Where do I even start with this? If you clicked on this video after it's been posted, you're awesome. Okay, you're awesome. You're my favorite. Secretly, you're my favorite. What the actual fuck? Okay, our president is so fucking tone deaf that he throws this lavish 1920s style party while the government shut down and people's healthcare premiums, people are about to go up, people's food stamps are about to expire. I mean, this is just pinnacle like elitism. And of course, the MAGA people are so brainwashed to the point where they're not even going to notice it. You know, they're not going to notice how much he actually views them, his own supporters, as deplorable. But like, this is you can't make this stuff up. Like, this is, reality is stranger than fiction. It really is. I mean, let me just get into it here because, I mean, oh my God. So, we recently had a Halloween, which is my favorite holiday, and I'm assuming this party was in the works for a while, okay? That all being said, it is very tone deaf, very inconsiderate, very elitist to have a 1920s style lavish type party when a lot of Americans are suffering. You know, like, just imagine if this was a Democrat that did it. This would be a national scandal for like 2 years at least. But this is like, Trump gets a get out of jail free card because it's like, oh, it's just Trump. It's just him being him. Like, we've normalized this kind of behavior. So this is just insanity here. Like, regardless of your political affiliation, I would hope that you would look at this and be disgusted. You know why? Because for any president to be throwing this big lavish party at a time when people are desperate, they are losing their food stamps, their healthcare premiums are about to skyrocket. It's just insensitive and it's disgusting. Like, let me just get into all the details here. I truly didn't know about this until earlier this morning. Like, I kind of took a break from a little bit of the news stream because I was like, I need a little bit of a mental health break because living in Trump's America, oh God. But let me just dive into this for you all. I can only be on for like about 20 minutes, so I appreciate every single one of you. When did you know you were gay? Actually, that is not the topic, but if you check out my videos, you might be able to have that answered. But, so let's dive into everything here. I appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to send some likes. Don't be obnoxious. I appreciate all of you. All right. So if you all are not familiar, Donald Trump, our president, threw this lavish Great Gatsby 1920s style party for Halloween. Of course, you know, a lot of people threw parties for Halloween, you know, have a theme and all that stuff. That's cool. Whatever. That's all right. Though it can be seen as very insensitive because right now, with the government shutdown that is happening, people are about to lose their food stamps. Their healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket because there's not been an extension for healthcare subsidies for low-income people, thanks to Republicans wanting to get rid of them and Democrats not budging, saying, no, we're not going to gut healthcare in order to reopen the government. We're not going to cut healthcare for low-income people if it means that we can open the government. Sorry, we're not going to do it. We're not going to massively like undercut people and price gouge people in order for us to open the government. Maybe Republicans shouldn't hold the government hostage by demanding that healthcare be cut for people. Anyway, so Trump throws this Great Gatsby style party. Let me just give you the facts here, okay? From here on, I'm just going to be giving you information. I am going to do my best to not have any sort of bias. I'm just going to give you the information here. So Donald Trump for Halloween threw this big Great Gatsby party. This is also coinciding at the time when more than 40 million Americans are about to lose their SNAP benefits, their EBT, food stamps, which is a program that helps low-income people afford their groceries. And so there were many people like John Oliver and Jon Stewart that were talking about all of this. And more than 40 million Americans got cut off from SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, along with WIC, which is the Women and Infants and Children, which is for, like, of course, those groups that coincide with SNAP. And according to, what was it? John Oliver said, Trump is going to have to own the consequences here, even as he continues to blame Democrats for the shutdown. He somehow manages to make the optics even worse. And he added, and for what it's worth, the actual theme of the event, and I quote, was, "A little party never killed nobody." Now, pause. As context here, if you ended up reading The Great Gatsby in school or just ever read it before, I'm sorry, but spoiler, there are people that get killed in the movie, in the book. So, like, for this to be a Great Gatsby style party, and then you say a little party never killed nobody, except that's exactly what it fucking did. Anyway, but John Oliver goes on to say, although it is true that we are all finding out right now, a grand old party is capable of killing a whole lot of people. Grand old party, GOP, meaning Republican, is capable of killing a whole lot of people, and unfortunately, they don't seem to give a single marble and gold encased shit about that. Now, that is all according to John Oliver, and just as a little spoiler, yes, 3 main characters die in the book, The Great Gatsby. So it's kind of just funny. I don't know if it was meant to be tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, a little party never killed nobody, except that's exactly what it did. That all being said, let me give you just some more information here. So, did Trump have a Great Gatsby-style party for Halloween when food stamps were set to expire, as Trump faced backlash after having a lavish party when people's food stamps assistance is being cut off because of the government shutdown under Trump? Yes. Halloween night, President Trump hosted a lavish Great Gatsby party at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. The invitation tagline, "A little party never killed nobody," a lyric from the 2013 Gatsby movie soundtrack. Guests were in roaring 20s flapper dresses, pinstripe suits, feather headpieces. Entertainers danced in giant martini glasses, and Trump sat at a candle-lit center table next to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So, to put in more context here, that same night, SNAP food stamps benefits for roughly 42 million low-income people, including 16 million children, were scheduled to run out at midnight because the federal government has been shut down since October. Since October 1st. The Trump administration has refused to tap into the $5 to $6 billion in legally available contingency funds, insisting it needed new congressional appropriations. So this is basically showing that Trump has the ability to continue the program, but didn't have the will to do it. Now, hours after the party, 2 federal judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island ordered the USDA to release emergency money to keep the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps, to continue running. The administration appealed that decision, then announced it would issue only partial November benefits, about half the normal amount, and that payments could take weeks to reach families. So the Trump administration said, no, I don't want to do that. And then they ended up saying, fine, we'll do only a partial amount, but it's going to, you're going to be in some pain during this time. And so let me just show you some pictures from the party here. This is Chris Murphy, who is a Democratic senator from, I think it's Connecticut. He's from Connecticut. He says, quote, "The way he rubs his inhumanity in Americans' face never ceases to stun me. He's illegally refusing to pay food stamp benefits while he throws a ridiculously over-the-top Gatsby party for his right-wing millionaire and corporate friends." And also you had critique from Gavin Newsom. Donald Trump hosted a Great Gatsby party while SNAP benefits were about to disappear for 42 million Americans. He does not give a damn about you. Also, in a piece to the Financial Times, which I did not read because there is a paywall up, it headlined How Gatsby Foretold Trump's America. The University of London literature professor Sarah Churchwell writes, quote, and this was reported from Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, who personally I recommend. She is a fantastic journalist. They are a whole great program. Quote, the novel's presence, The Great Gatsby, the novel, presence lies not in foretelling specific events, but in diagnosing a culture where power enjoys impunity and cruelty rubs out its traces, a society run by careless people. The unheeding brutality of so-called world builders has returned most recently in the dark fantasies of Trumpism and in Silicon Valley's fictitious motto, move fast and break things. Make sure to send some likes if you're enjoying the live stream. Before I get into some of my analysis, let me show you some more actual pictures from the event here. This is some of the festivities that were happening at Mar-a-Lago, and of course, it was all very lavish, you know, over the top, no budget. You can see there's Trump sitting there, sitting next to Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And you can see there were entertainers that were doing burlesque with the big feathers, everything like that. This all happening, coinciding at a time where food stamps are set to run out for low-income people. And you can see this is the dessert spread that was seen at the party. It's very, very lavish, you know, just going all out. You can see Trump grinning here. I don't know who he's grinning to, but he's obviously having a good time there. Also, that's Jeanine Pirro right here, dressed up in a 1920s flap her whole updo. You can see these were some of the entertainers dancing in martini glasses. This all happening at a time when people are struggling living paycheck to paycheck, and we are facing some of the biggest wealth inequality ever in American history. Photos captured by professional photographers at the event itself feature female dancers wearing laced flapper dresses and feather headbands, along with what appear to be two giant silver and gold beach balls floating in the resort's pool, which I will show you here momentarily. You can see this is Jeanine Pirro, who Trump has tapped to be the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, dressed all up in that 1920s style. You can see here, 1920s, if you are not familiar, was a period of lavish wealth inequality that happened in American history. Having a party set by the elite people that are ruling this government at a time when people are struggling living paycheck to paycheck, food stamps being cut off to low-income people, as well as farmers really struggling because of Trump's inability to handle, and this is my view, inability to handle anything regarding agriculture, giving a bailout to Argentina, quadrupling the low income tariff threshold. We've talked about that the last few days. Check out the past live streams. It is really, really on the nose. That is my opinion. You can disagree with that, but I think that we would all have that takeaway. I hope we would all have that takeaway regardless of political affiliation. If this was Joe Biden holding this party when people's food stamps were set to expire, I would be also just as critical, but it is not. Now you can see here are more pictures from it. Party was thrown a night before the funding was due to expire. And that's my last picture here. Before I get to people's comments, I just wanted, I want to make sure and read the super chat here. It was his let them eat cake moment. 100% it was. 100%. And, like, I just hope that regardless of political affiliation, that we would all see this and be like, look, this is bad optics. Like, the president of the United States throwing this big lavish party set at a time when people are really struggling is just one of the most inconsiderate, disgusting things ever. And according to Grok, the bottom line, the optics of champagne flutes and feather boas on the exact night 42 million Americans lost or nearly lost grocery money ignited a firestorm for good reason. The White House called the criticism partisan and kept blaming Democrats, but courts and most headliners pinned the SNAP cutoff, or snap cliff on the administration's legal maneuvering. As of today, November 4th, families are still waiting for even reduced benefits to hit their EBT cards. And to continue onward here, let's get to some people's comments. Trump doesn't care about Americans. That was evident in his first term when he let hundreds of thousands of people suffer and die under COVID from his stupidity. As you all can see here, I cannot verify whether this quote was indeed by Caroline Leavitt. I would not be surprised, but I have not independently verified it. And so Trump has not ended 9 wars, saved tens of millions of lives, blah, blah, blah. Trump has indeed put the USA on the global humanitarian watch list in 2025, fired or forced out over 200,000 federal workers, backed cuts of about $300 billion to SNAP and about $1 trillion to people on Medicaid. So you get the gist. There were a lot of people that put up GIFs about Donald Trump being in a Marie Antoinette kind of style of the let them eat cake. Now, as a fun little fact, there's not actual specific evidence to show that she said the let them eat cake, from my knowledge. That was not something that she actually physically ever said, though I think it was kind of translated and then implied. I think they were referring to brioche bread. It's a whole thing. If you go and look at the origin, I don't think she specifically ever said that. Of course, it would have been in French because Marie Antoinette, this whole thing happened during the French Revolution, basically. Anyway, but as you can see here, people were very quick to throw up memes like this, and low-key kind of disturbing in my view. But as you can see, you know, a lot of people are looking at this being like, yeah, it is really, really rich and ironic that the Trump administration is throwing a 1920s lavish style party at a time when people are really struggling. He flaunts his luxury while millions struggle to eat, cutting food stamps but throwing a roaring Gatsby bash for his millionaire buddies. That's not leadership. It's cruelty dressed as power. The disconnect between the elite class and real Americans has never been clearer. And you can see this continues to go on and on. And there's also people that posted stuff like this, which low-key was really disturbing, obviously poking fun at a lot of the women that are... I can't get through this one. A lot of the women that have plastic surgery and get Botox in order to fill their lips. They call it Mar-a-Lago face. Also, you can see Trump here. This is an AI photo with Jeffrey Epstein picture as the suit. Endless amounts of Marie Antoinette stuff here. Now, this I think is a fantastic analysis, and one that I strongly align with. The billionaires living off government money have convinced us the problem is poor people living off government money. Let me just quickly pause here for a second. I think that is such a fantastic and eloquent way to put it. Look, regardless of your identity, your race, your sexual orientation, gender identity, what state you live in, regardless of your political affiliation, your employment, whatever. A lot of the media, which is controlled by corporate billionaires, now approaching further and further right wing, have poured a lot of money into propagandizing and pacifying a lot of people, middle class, working class like me, into believing that somehow it's us living off our government money, which is the issue. And that's why we need to give billionaire tax cuts to people like Elon Musk. Sorry, but that's not going to cut it anymore. The people are not falling for your propaganda. The government gives a lot of tax cuts and tax breaks to very moneyed interests. Very moneyed interests. So, and regardless of political affiliation in that way. So, like, I'm tired of my taxpayer dollars going to subsidizing Elon Musk's next rocket. Sorry, I'm just tired of that. I think we can all agree with this statement. The billionaires living off the government money, they have convinced us that the problem is poor people living off the government money. The government is funded by people like us. We are the government. You are the government. We are the people. We pay into it with our taxes. So for wealthy interests to then be literally looting our government and stealing our money when it should be going to things that benefit us is a travesty, in my opinion. So this also this just ties so perfectly into the theme of today's show here. Also, flies in the face of what Donald Trump previously said about a shutdown. He said, a government shutdown falls on the president's lack of leadership. I mean, problems start from the top and they have to get solved from the top. A shutdown means the president is weak. That was what Donald Trump said in 2013. Now, I want to do a quick little breakdown about the 1920s. And I'm going to have to go here in about 5-7 minutes. But let me do a quick little breakdown about the 1920s if you are not familiar. During the period of the 1920s, there was prolific amounts of income and wealth inequality. And you all might know the 1920s as being, oh, this is lavish, American great wealth, Great Gatsby styled flapper dresses, short hairdos and burlesque and all of that style. Also, you had the Great Depression, the stock market crash. A lot of Americans living in something called Hoovervilles, or they called them Hoovervilles, but they were basically like, they were living in poverty. They were living in like the ghetto. And so I asked Grok just to give me a little bit more context here. I said, was there prolific income inequality during the 1920s? Is The Great Gatsby, the book and movie, but mainly the book, a cautionary tale of the downsides of massive wealth versus massive poverty? And Grok says, yes. The 1920s were a golden age for the ultra-rich and a grinding struggle for everyone else. The most unequal decade in modern U.S. history. Until now. So here are the hard numbers. The top 1% of families vacuumed up 23.9% of all pre-tax income in 1928. And 60% of American families earn less than $2,000 a year, which when you compare that to the current day money, that is about $35,000 today. So if you're living under $35,000, then that means that, like the 1920s, you are that person that is impoverished. 1/3 of the entire nation's income went to the richest top 5%. Farmers, Black Americans, immigrants, and older industrial towns were left out of the boom. Rural bank failures and farm foreclosures doubled every year after 1925. And yes, The Great Gatsby is the original Let Eat the Rich kind of novel. And I'm not going to go into a whole soliloquy about specifically The Great Gatsby, but scholars call it the original. The 1920s had that big, massive stock market crash. And with all of this being said, like, it was, wealth inequality skyrocketed. And so Fitzgerald published the book in 1925. 4 years later, the market proved him right. The top 1%'s income share was slashed in half by 1944, only because the Depression and wartime taxes forced a reset. And the bottom line, the Roaring 20s weren't roaring for the bottom 60%. They were a preview of today. Champagne flutes and Mar-a-Lago penthouses, while millions wonder how to stretch an EBT card. Gatsby's tragedy isn't that he loved too much. It's that in a country this unequal, love, talent, and hard work still lose to inherited zip codes. And I also asked, I said, compared to the 1920s, is the income/wealth gap bigger between, let me reread that. I also asked, compared to the 1920s, is the income/wealth gap between the 1% and the bottom 60% of Americans smaller or bigger than today's current society? The answer is basically it's actually bigger today in regards to income and wealth, which are very similar but a little bit different in the way that they are measured. So putting that all in perspective, as a quick little takeaway, we are facing more wealth inequality today than we were back in the 1920s. So when we had the lavish Great Gatsby style kinds of parties with the flapper dresses, the burlesque, when you break it down, we are seeing a bigger gap between the top 1%, the top Elon Musk, who is set to become the world's first trillionaire, the Jeff Bezoses, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the George Soroses, the people who the Bill Gates, the people who have lots and lots of money, versus the remaining 60% of Americans living all over working class jobs in blue and red states, living paycheck to paycheck, unable to afford their health care, might be living on food stamps or Medicaid, yet we continue to demonize those folks. And so when you actually look at it compared to the 1920s, do we have a bigger wealth gap today than in the 1920s? Yes, we actually do. And so in 1928, the peak of the Roaring 20s, the top 1% basically owned a fourth, 25% near of all pre-tax income. Now you say, okay, for 2024, it was around 21%. Correct. But when you look at it, the bottom 60%, they owned 41% in 1928, whereas today, the bottom 37%, the bottom 90%, as you can see here, the bottom 60% share are only around a third of the nation's wealth. So you can see that the income or the inequality and wealth gap is actually even bigger today, even though this is a tiny bit lower, if I have my math correct. But this was from Grok. I know it's a lot of numbers, but you can see here, the bottom line on income, the raw dollar chasm between a Park Avenue heir in 1928 and a Kansas farmer was large. But the percentage of the nation's paycheck going to the top 1% is within 3 points of the 1928 record. But because today's economy is 30 times bigger, 28 trillion versus 0.9 trillion, the absolute gap, which is 2.35 million, is 5 times wider in Gatsby's day. So the wealth gap is way bigger today. Wealth, stocks, real estate, yachts is far more lopsided in 2025 than 1925. You can see the top 1% share of all household net worth. In the late 1920s, it was 45%. Today, it is 30.8% for 2024. And basically what you're seeing here is that the bottom 60%, only 6% or so is in actual wealth. So there's some more numbers to kind of support all of that. I know it's a lot of numbers to look at. I would love to do a deeper dive into all of this. When you look at why wealth is so much more unequal now, 1920s fortunes were mostly land and factories, which was hard to scale. 2025 fortunes are FAANG stock, private equity, crypto, winner take all. Middle class home ownership peaked at 69% in 2004. Today, 40% of 30-year-olds rent forever. Yeah, well, yeah, that happens. Also, when you look at it, one chart says it all. Wealth share of the bottom 60%. You can see here that in the 1920s, the bottom 60% owned about 12 to 15% of the nation's wealth, overall wealth. Now, in the 1980s, you can see here that the peak was about 28%. Now, in 2025, but they only use 2024 because that's the latest full year data, it's 6%. So while 60%, the bottom 60% of Americans only own 6% of the wealth, you have to ask yourself, do you think that it's somehow okay for someone like Trump to be hosting some 1920s grand ode to the 1920s style party when people are losing their SNAP benefits? I think it is incredibly tone deaf, disrespectful, shows he is inadequate to be our president. If this was Joe Biden or Kamala Harris also throwing this style party at a time when you have massive wealth inequality, I would also find it just as deplorable. Because regardless of your political affiliation, separate out your team sports jersey and just look at the objective facts. Right now, we are seeing a lot of poor people, low-income people, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their identity, regardless of your race, sexual orientation, gender identity. It doesn't matter what state you're from, what kind of work you are in. You are seeing massive amounts of wealth inequality, which has been perpetuated by the Trump administration, but also this current era of politics, which is why people are so fucking upset. We need a massive style redistribution of wealth. We need the working class people to actually reap what they sow, the hard work of what they do. Instead, right now we have an economy that is for the top 1%, not for you, not for all of us, working class or middle class people. It is time that we finally put whatever cultural beef we have aside, stop voting based on your hate and your prejudice, and actually let's band together. Yes, that means interlocking arms with someone who might be trans or use they, them pronouns. And yes, that might mean interlocking arms with someone who might be a MAGA farmer that you might have grievances with. We all need to collectively band together and ask ourselves much more from the government than just the government giving handouts to corporations and wealthy people. It is time for us to stop feeding into the division. And yes, that means MAGA. You need to stop. You need to stop fear-mongering about trans people's existence. It means you have to stop fear-mongering about undocumented people who are not mooching off the government. If you listen to their stories and get to know them, it means that we have to collectively band together, which means we need to give room for people to learn, but then also give them a little bit of tough love. And so I am exhausted from having to live in this timeline. I really want us to be better and demand better from our government. And to give a little bit more of a status update, just to show you how crazy, in my view, Trump is, he recently renovated the White House to do this like marble bathroom. What the actual fuck? Like, look at this. He posted endless amounts of pictures about this damn bathroom. For heaven's sake, is the man insane? I would rather have a president posting about delivering for the American people, not being like, look at my bathroom, it has marble, it has gold, it's fantastic, it's incredible, it's outstanding. This is so out of touch. He posted about it 7 times. And you know what's even worse than Trump doing this? It's the people that fucking repost it. It's the people that comment on it, lapping it up like dogs. Demand better from yourself instead of just praising some sort of leader. It's embarrassing for you. It is disgusting. It is Anyway, you basically get the take. I mean, oh wow. Anyway, I have to get to work. I love all of you, even if you don't like me, okay? I appreciate all of you. Shout out to my moderators in here. Akicha, Kate, Elisa, Ellie. Y'all are incredible. Jenny, Joanna Tech, Cantisa, Cherie. I love all of you so, so much. I need to get going to work. I will be live tomorrow. Today is election day, so make sure to get out there and vote. Make sure to get out there and vote. I love all of you. Take back your power. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. And go Zoran Mondani. Love you. Bye.